Yugoslavian cinema reflects the state's continuous ideological search for an optimal compromise between market and socialism, freedom of expression and censorship. The history of the cinema of the socialist Yugoslavia begins in 1946 with the establishment of the Committee for Cinematography and its respective program developed for the film industry. One was expected to comply with the rules, which were related to that of the socialist realism. However, numerous changes occurred after the Tito-Stalin split in June of 1948. The reforms following Yugoslavia's shift to the self-management socialism promoted the creation of private enterprises. Subsequently, it also cut the restrictions on religious expression and the freedom of speech. The country's transitional stage influenced the Yugoslavian cinema. New films featured the expressionist effects along the thematic and emotional ambivalence that could not be seen before. Nevertheless, the film industry appeared to be in a tricky situation. Now it had to fulfill a triple task: promote the socialist values, comply with the filmmaker's vision, and meet the audience's demands. State's unclear and poorly communicated definition of socialist film also aggravated the situation. The only official criteria required filmmakers to express Yugoslavian history and cultural heritage and present state of human and social relations. Self-management culture presupposed that film studios assert their independence from central authorities by acting as autonomous players on the market. It became increasingly obvious that this independence could never be achieved without state funds. In turn, state funding increased students' dependence on central bureaucracy and diminished the production houses' independence. As a result, young people of Yugoslavia, including the filmmakers, began to criticize their government and struggle through a critique of all existing conditions. A subset of the new Yugoslav film movement went even further in its opposition to the dominant ideology. Later, this dark, cynical form of polemical film was named as a Black Wave by the president of the Communist of Ideological Action.
The leading figures of the movement argued that the only way to socially engaged films was to allow film artists to express themselves in a free and anarchic spirit.
Zadatak izvršen! Vrlo dobro! Služimo narodu!
Hence, the Black Wave movement emerged as an opposition to the dominant political and aesthetic concept of the country's cinematography. The films and the filmmakers were strongly opposed to the socialist ideology when used to preserve and concentrate power in the hands of few. Nevertheless, they were not necessarily anti-socialist. The artists aimed at the critique of all existing conditions squarely at ideology. They described life of ordinary citizens in a socialist nation with a critical eye and playful attitude, in contrast to the popular partisan and propaganda films dominating the Yugoslav movie industry in 1950s. At its most essential level, the Yugoslav Black Wave film is a polemic film. The polemical method of the Black Wave operates on the three levels corresponding to three defining characteristics of orthodox Marxism. Precisely, Black Wave film is anti-traditional, oppositional, and critical. The films do no longer serve the ideological purpose of glorifying the state's historical past. The films are also oppositional in the sense that they aim to undermine the authority of the ruling ideology. And last but not the least, the Black Wave films are critical towards both the past and present. Among other recurring features of the Black Wave films are experiment with style, format, theme, and shooting. Style of the Black Wave film differs significantly from one of the partisan film. The new modernist cinematographic style includes non-linear or omnibus structure, dark and ambivalent tone. The use of historical footages and handheld camera are among other defining features of the format of the Black Wave film. In addition to a new anti-traditional stylistic outlook, the films feature contemporary tones and modern themes. Most of the movement's films keep an intense focus on the present, whereas past, if portrayed, is shown in a questioning and critical light. The emphasis on the present is achieved through the portrayal of contemporary city life, as well as real people in everyday situations. The Black Wave films reject collectivism in the opposition to the governing ideology. Instead, they focus on the contemporary society and regard person as an individual beyond political and social structures. In addition, they reveal the layer of society that remained buried from the public view. Wanderers, unemployed, homeless, orphans do not theoretically exist in the socialist state of Yugoslavia, but nevertheless play leading roles in the films of the movement. Patriarchal overtones and violent treatment of passive female characters also define most of the Black Wave films. Seldom, women are portrayed as sexually liberated upfront members of the revolutionary groups. Such a woman can only challenge the patriarchal society and therefore is brutally punished, beaten up, raped, or murdered. The Black Wave filmmakers opted to expose the dark side of the socialist state with its corruption and hypocrisy. The life in the modern society was depicted as hard, unpredictable struggle for survival. Therefore, the cynical tone and fatalistic conclusions are common for most of the Black Wave films.
I don't believe that traditional moralists are wrong. I just don't like them when they try to control everybody and everything and to control us 24 hours a day.
Dusan Makavejev is the best internationally known of all Yugoslav directors. His early films, Man is Not a Bird, Love Affair or The Case of the Missing Switchboard Operator, and W.R. Mysteries of the Organism, reflect both the thematic tendencies of the Black Wave as well as the modernist style of the Novi film. Makavejev's films bear several stylistic trademarks: non-linear narrative, collage of associative images, documentary and pseudo-documentary footage, and scientific lectures by a sexologist and a criminologist. Makavejev's breakthrough and international recognition came with W.R. Mysteries of the Organism, a film that he described as a fantasy on the fascism and communism of human bodies, the political life of human genitals, a proclamation of the pornographic essence of any system of authority and power over others. The film was shot in US and Yugoslavia and juxtaposed a documentary on the life of Wilhelm Reich, including his theories of sexual repression and liberation, with a story of a young woman who tries to introduce free love in socialist Yugoslavia. Due to controversy, the film was withdrawn from domestic distribution and shelved for 16 years. Also, Makavejev was forced to work abroad because of political pressures.
Vaša cimerka opet vrši polno opštenje. Sramota. Mora gledate vi svoja posla. Gledam, nego vidim belasaju se guzovi. Šta je to vas briga? Brinem da se mladež ne istroši. Sloboda i ljubav se ne mogu potrošiti, gospođo. Od vas izgleda šampionat za ljubavnu gimnastiku. To je telesna ljubav. Abstinencija je nezdrava, neljudska, nepravilna i što je najvažnije, kontrarevolucionarna. Mislim, u smislu jebačine.
Kud narodna vojska prođe.
Ekspres i novosti uvlače nas u besmislenu debatu da li je bolji kratak i debeo ili tanak i dug. Molim vas, to su lažne dileme. Ne verujte štampi. Najvažnije je u svemu veselje. Veseli je najbolji. Pa i najmanje dete zna da je najslađe između nogu. Naš put u budućnost mora biti životno pozitivan. Drugovi, socijalizam i fizička ljubav ne smeju biti u suprotnosti. Socijalizam ne može da isključuje ljudska zadovoljstva iz svojih programa. Oktobarska revolucija propala je na pitanju slobodne ljubavi.
Aleksandar Petrović is another Yugoslav director who established an international reputation. His intimate and love has vanished, and the partisan genre 3 established him as leading voice of the Novi film. Petrovic's ethnographic Ivan Met Happy Gypsies was a great international critical and commercial success, and the politically charged The Master and Margaret won top award at the Venice Film Festival.
Ja sam Želimir Živnik, 28 godina, 72 kile.
The most prominent among those who entered the darkness at the end of society with their eyes and the lenses of their cameras, wide open was and still is Želimir Žilnik. the most important author of the Black Wave, representing the most radical and consistent expression of its blackness. Žilnik's early works explores the radical impulses behind the unrest of the young country, where the revolutionaries of an earlier generation now form the establishment. Žilnik also shot controversial documentaries, like Black Film, which was an explicit response to accusations of officials for creating black films, and student strikes, which captured widespread student demonstration in Belgrade, have never been shown in Yugoslavia due to censorship. Živojin Pavlović is another figure in the Black Wave cinema. In his films and novels, he depicted the cruel reality of small, poor, and abandoned people living in the corners of society, which are depicted in his debut film, When I'm Dead and Pale. Pavlović received numerous awards, one Silver Bear of the Berlin International Film Festival for The Rats Woke Up, and several Golden Arenas of the Yugoslavia's most prestigious Pula Film Festival.
Many films produced by the Black Wave directors were warmly received on the international festivals and screenings. But the same movies were often heavily criticized or banned inside the country. For the most part, the critique radiated from the government and supporters of the present ideology. Oppositional mode of the movement was supported by hefty ideological criticism and focus on exposing the issues of socialist reality. In many ways, such focus on current issues shifted the role of the Black Wave filmmaker from the role of an artist to the role of a reporter.
Ej, drugovi, imam jedno pitanje. Juče sam našao 6 ljudi koji nemaju gde da spavaju, doveo sam ih u svoj stan i pokušavam negdje da ih smestim. Šta ti misliš, šta da uradim?
Da ih smestiš?
Gde?
U svoj stan.
Pa da, ali užasno me smrde.
Pa ne znam, ja mislim da bi se to trebalo javiti miliciji, od njih zahtevati da izbaci šta je, ako je zauzeti zatvori, da obezbede mesta i zatvori.
As the Serbian film critic Branko Vusicevic pointed out, they brought up topics that were carefully buried and pointed at the pictures that were assumed non-existent. Popularity of the Black Wave peaked in 1969. At the Berlin Film Festival, 1 week was dedicated to the Yugoslav film. Želimir Žilnik, with his early works, took the main award of the festival, the Golden Bear. At the time, films from Yugoslavia dominated the festival. Same year, the Museum of Modern Art in New York City held the new Yugoslav film program, which included Black Wave works. This program was a mark of acceptance of the Black Wave in the West and signified the wave's popularity peak. The movement began to fade away in 1972 after Lazan Stojanovic, one of Petrovic's students, presented his film Plastic Jesus. The movie contained critique of Tito and triggered a wave of repression.
To se Titu posebno svidelo, između ostalog, zato što je na autu nekom koji je bio njegov bio broj koji je bio tačan.
Das ist Titos Wagen.
Most of the Black Wave directors were dragged into courts or forced to flee to the West. Yet, the wave's legacy was not lost. In the early 80s, at the time of Tito's death, economic instability and social confusion, a new movement emerged. It consisted of young directors who were studying at FAMU, a film school in Prague. The group included such names as Goran Paskajevic and Emir Kusturica. They built on the foundation of the Black Wave and tried to restore the significance of the new film movement. Kusturica and Paskajevic directly followed Petrovic's steps in terms of depiction of marginalized gypsies. Just like in the 60s, filmmakers focused on current issues and societal dilemmas. However, the group did not confront the political order like the Black Wave did, but adopted an attitude of critical indirection. Both rise and fall of the Yugoslav Black Wave were fast and bright. Acting almost like reporters, the directors exposed current issues of the socialist reality, leaving a footprint in the history of cinema and influencing young filmmakers.
Nisam imala odnose sa muškarcima, ali mislim da je to jedna lepa stvar.